And yet we're designating ourselves as an aggressive priority development area. So trying to interpret that is essentially what you're saying is the risk is so low that there will be any building for however long this priority development thing lasts, that we should just take the money?
So, as I've said a number of times now, the zoning isn't changing. Development that could happen under current entitlements can happen. I think the funding is important. There's projects that need to be done. Dollars are not plentiful. We're not the federal government here at the county. We can't make the money. There's a constant tension, I think, for us at the county. We get a lot of pass-through dollars from the state and from the federal government. For those of you who've been paying attention to the economy over the last 4 or 5 years, you know that all of us have been in a resource scarcity mode. On the transportation front, I'm not only a county supervisor, I sit on the TAM board, the SMART board, and the Golden Gate Bridge board. I get information in a lot of different directions about transportation dollars and how scarce they are. Looking for money to do projects that we want to do that are beneficial for our communities is not something to be easily dismissed. So that's why I've said repeatedly, I think it's important to really think carefully about what are the benefits and what you feel like you're giving up. And I know that this community is doing that, and this has been a good start, but I think there's a lot more details, there's a lot better understanding that's free of hyperbole that everybody needs to work their way towards.
We're not engaging in hyperbole, we're looking at actual government documents. That's what we're citing. But the other thing is to say that, when we're looking at, I guess I just don't understand the concept, of is this free money? If we're not expected to do anything, then why are they just handing us money for a designation that's meaningless? I don't think they're that stupid, and I don't think that's their intention. The part of why this is a voluntary program, a voluntary designation that is supposed to have the community support, is because you don't get funding for all of the infrastructure, the cost to house people that are in excess of the growth that you're already planned for. And ABAG can tell us, they can incentivize us. Look how easily our county is already signing us up for things for amounts of money. That money, ABAG is getting more and more money, and the incentives are going to continue to go along. And it looks like from what our county is saying is that they are going to bite on every carrot that's tossed to them and throw strawberry under the bus.
Well, let me go to the next question. Thank you. I understand the benefits of PDA designation related to potential monetary access to transportation funding, period. What are examples of historical transportation projects received by Strawberry? In other words, how has Strawberry benefited in the past from similar funds?
So that's a good... No, there was money, I think it was $800,000 that was dedicated to the improvements around Strawberry Point School. That's been within the last 5 years. I don't know if our planners can think of other things. Yeah, we can come back to you on that. Being in mind, I've been in this position for 2 years. Strawberry Point School is the most recent project that I'm aware of, but we can put together a list for the community.
As they always say, great depositions. Send it in the next 5 days. They do need that sort of stuff. Who would like to comment over here? No.
Well, I just want to say that I'm looking at the document that was prepared by, it looks like, Brian Crawford. And this is when Tam and Marin were being removed from the PDA. And I'm just curious because the document says that, this funding might still be available. I'm not suggesting it's worth it, but it might be available. Has anybody looked from the county, asked ABAG, that if you remove the Strawberry corridor from the PDA, might we still qualify for the $10 million grant money? Because according to the memo from Brian Crawford, hey, it might be available. There's still PDAs in Marin County, and has anybody actually gone and said, let's try this out? Strawberry community doesn't want it. Let's see. Maybe there's a win-win solution.
That was a question that came up with Tam Valley because I had a series of conversations with that community on these very issues that went on for a number of months. And that issue did come up because we were concerned, like I'm concerned about this community, about the prospect of losing bad money. And frankly, it's unclear with the strawberry money. And remember, there's a hope that hasn't been confirmed that the money that was allocated to strawberry when it was a PDA will not be removed. There's a hope. But remember, $175,000, as I think a number of you suggested, doesn't get you very far. And if you're really going to pay for a project, you need additional funding. And that's where being out of the PDA does begin to have an impact. As I said before, 50% of federal transportation dollars that come through One Bay Area have to go into a PDA. To the extent that we have a lot of areas that are not in the PDA, that are competing with each other, and everybody's got projects and everybody's looking for funding, the more competitors you have for half of the pot, the harder it is to get that money. So there's a long and there's a future trajectory that I think it's important to not lose sight of.
I just think that I don't understand if there's no real housing plan here and this is going to have such a minimal impact. Strawberry's not really going to be a PDA. Why ABAG would have any problem removing us? I mean, you could say that. You could say to ABAG what you're saying to us tonight. Hey, guess what? We're not really going to do much here. This isn't really going to happen. So take them out of the PDA and still give us their money.
I could say that and they could say no.
Well, they'd say yes because it's voluntary. It's voluntary. They would say yes.
They could say no to the money.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. And I mean, and I think the money's a separate issue.
They are out and they have $475,000.
And we're repeating what we said before. Remember, I told you the $475,000 went to Caltrans, and it has nothing to do with the PDA. Different pot of money.
And we can all agree to disagree. For consensus, that's okay. All right, development of the seminary may or may not be subject to PDA standards. The half-mile limit is undefined. Is it by public right-of-way or as the bird flies? If you have to walk more than a half mile around the wetlands, it should not be eligible. This is crucial since the housing element is up for debate. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
The PDA is measured half mile from the edge of 101. According to our kind of mapping, that cuts through the lower portion of the seminary site. So by the way it's defined in the program, in the PDA program, it's half a mile by the way the crow flies. It's the definition of the PDA for Marin County, it's half a mile from 101.
So by air.
Yeah. So what that sounds like,
Right, that's one that's correct. Airplane.
It's
Crow fly.
yes, through an aerial map. This is different than the half a mile that we use in our countywide plan for the housing overlay designation. Earlier on, we talked about that for the Strawberry Village Center site.
Different definition of half a mile?
Yes. And that has to do with the different programs that's in. We have something in our countywide plan that's different than what is in, by definition, the PDA.
so if the purpose of the PDA is, realistically, is to have people close to transit, and we're measuring it as the crow flies, which is probably not how people are going to get to transit. And it sounds to me like you're looking for ways to put us in the PDA. It doesn't spiritually meet the goals of the PDA, which is to have people near transit. It legally meets that. And again, I put it back to the point of you are trying to put us in the PDA, and I can't find the reason other than that we might get transportation money without which we might not get stuff built, even though we're going to be one of the 2 or 3 PDAs in Marin, which sort of implies that no one else will get anything built because they're not a PDA. So I'm having trouble with all that. Can you reconcile that for me?
Who wants to tackle that?
Well, we would love to know.
But that's the question. Where is it?
You know, the seminary is not relying on the PDA. I mean, there's existing development potential under the master plan. As I said earlier, the PDA, well, with half a mile from 101, it cuts into the lower part of the seminary site. But if you look at the other sites closer to 101 where the transit is, I mean, like the Strawberry Village Center, those are probably some of the sites where it is walkable to your transit station.
And let me add on to this for a second. I mean, the goal of this notion of trying to focus development closer to transit, it would be great if nobody drove their cars at all and we had really energetic folks who wanted to walk a half a mile. But the intent really is to reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled. So the principle is when you had development based on sprawl, even if someone wanted to take a bus that goes down the 101 corridor, and if they drove 5 miles to get there, there's more greenhouse gas emissions from driving 5 miles than there is from driving half a mile. So even if you chose, you were in an area that was not walkable, it would still reduce vehicle miles traveled. In addition to that, there are bus stops, obviously, major bus paths that go up along the 101 corridor. And so that was what shaped the reasoning to have the PDA be a half mile from 101.
So maybe I can comment on that. If you go back in time, the first bill that passed was AB 32. And it was legislation to try and reduce greenhouse gases in California. And that morphed into, that combined with some other social engineering objectives got us to where we are today with the planted area. Interestingly, the greenhouse gas issue seems to be going away. The Air Resources Board, California Air Resources Board, projects that greenhouse gases will grow at 0.5% a year between 2013 and 2012. But that study doesn't take into account the new Obama administration CAFE standards that says fuel efficiency over that time will increase at 5.48%. So we're actually going way down in the production of greenhouse gases. Number one, for the people in government that would like to get us out of our car and into shuttle buses. Shuttle buses are classified as medium weight vehicles. They are enormous polluters. They're much worse than cars. And so if you start running shuttles from the Strawberry Shopping Center down to the Tiburon Ferry, all you're doing is spewing out greenhouse gases all day long. It's
Sorry, but you don't know.
Well, and I was just about...
What I used to do on the city council, let me point out, is I banged yellow once and that's okay. But I introduce the audience, we bang it twice. The sheriff then does his duty, so I don't want to bang it again. Please, go. Supervisor.
Well, and until David said that, I got excited because I thought we'd actually found something we could agree on. There's some very good statistics about greenhouse gas emissions for the next few years. The challenge becomes what happens with the greenhouse gas emissions after 2020. But I think, there are important points here in terms of measures that we are taking to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, whether it's the Obama administration changes that they've made in the standards, whether it's more people using all electric vehicles. These are all important steps, and they're steps that we need to be taking. Transportation, I think, and David's going to correct me if I get the statistic wrong, it's 43%. That's a lot. 62% of our greenhouse gas emissions are created by transportation. Now, if our state legislature had really wanted to take the bull by the horns when they passed AB 32 and SB 375, would they have focused only on light trucks and automobiles? I don't think so. They should have, in my opinion, taken on the really high polluting forms of transportation that we have. That includes shipping. It includes a lot of our larger vehicles, and those are all emissions that we need to deal with. So I think you raise a good point. We should feel good about some of the changes that have been made. Some of those statistics are also based on a period of financial downturn where people were not driving as much, so that can factor in. But the bottom line to me is that we've got a lot more work to do in all of these areas, and there's reasons that we don't want to take Plan Bay area as our model that are entirely different for some of the reasons that have been discussed tonight.
You guys have been great, very patient night. The panelists have been really patient. Look, guys, this is a tough issue. I appreciate that. We got time for one more question. We promised, by the way, Supervisor, that any questions that weren't asked, we would give these and you would respond. Most of the folks who were kind enough haven't announced their name, but they're kind enough to put their address and email, so I'm sure they'd appreciate a response, and which is just great. Last question, infrastructure. What will be the cost of infrastructure due to PTAs? Why not just purchase the space as open space and donate to the Marin County, and then donate, yes, the community would donate to the Marin County Housing Authority?
I'm not sure I understand that.
They're suggesting that
What's the
if the
cost
community
of
wanted to
infrastructure
purchase the
related
land and then somehow come up with a donation to the Housing Authority in lieu of that. I read the questions as they're given.
Donating land. We never ever call on people donating land to the county.
Well, the classic example is with something like that. I can always remember the Marin County line. Remember, used to do the driving. They figured the development cost more to do the infrastructure than you remember that. They bought the place.
I guess what I don't understand about that is that
It's not like
it's too expensive for a private developer to do it. How would Marin Housing Authority finance the infrastructure?
I'm just trying to get every question in. Anybody over here?
Well, yeah, I don't know if the issue of infrastructure is, I mean, that is a concern that we have, because that's also a concern that every city who's voted to opt out of this, and the other areas of the unincorporated county have said, is who is paying for the infrastructure for the people who are going to be incentivized, or for all of the people that would be able, or I guess, going to prioritize development. That is a big issue, because, and that's an issue that we really didn't get into much here today, because we were talking about, but we would like to talk about that too, because people have done extensive studies about the cost of adding, sets of different numbers of people and what it costs the community. And ABAG has been clear that they're not giving money for infrastructure. And I don't know that the county's not giving us money now. I doubt we'll get money for infrastructure if we're a PDA. I mean, if we continue as a PDA.
We're not in the business of incentivizing development.
No, that's the ABAG. That's what you're saying is
Right, so
the
right, the
Marin
county
Bay
won't-
area. Which is why we want to stay in that zone with the rest of the county and not be in a PDA that does incentivize development.
Let us have that conversation with you. Let us not have that conversation.
Well, let's first of all say this is a great conversation. And it's 9 o'clock. We promised you at 9 o'clock. We're looking at the time. Give me 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. I want to first of all recognize Bob Long, who's here tonight. Bob's been a 48-year resident of Strawberry. Amazing. Bob. Give me the longest Strawberry resident. Remember Bob? Which shows a lot of tremendous dedication. I just want to say, first of all, thank some people, but to thank you first. I want to thank Supervisors Sears, David, Lily, and Tom from the county, and the other folks from the county. Thank you, you've been great. I want to thank the panelists, Rick, Stacy, Steve, and Rob. You guys have been great. Strawberry Recreation District. I want to thank Strawberry Recreation District, but I particularly want to thank you folks. This is an example of what Strawberry is doing. This was an extremely well-run, extremely polite, extremely dignified group. You guys really shone tonight, and I think you deserve a tremendous amount of credit. And I'm going to tell you, you give me a great idea for a column coming incorporating with Strawberry. So this may be the first. Thank you for coming, and take your cookies anywhere.
There was nothing wrong with our meeting.